Welcome to Holistically Speaking. I'm Hilary Russo, certified holistic health coach and health and wellness journalist. This is an empowering place to explore self-awareness, self-love, and transformation through health, healing, and humor. By sharing life-changing experiences, knowledge, and guests with varied expertise, we'll explore who we are, how we got that way, and what it takes to be a happy and healthy grown-up. Mind, body, and spirit. I'm glad you're here. Where are you from? No, I mean, what's your ethnicity? Oh boy, I can't tell you how many times I've been asked that question. Look, I'm a Russo. Dark hair, dark eyes, olive skin. So the assumption is, with my name and features, I'm Italian. But without breaking down my 23andMe results to you, there is more to this gal at the microphone. Much more. More than where I'm from, the tone of my skin, my gender, my age, my background, my religion, and so on and so forth. And frankly, there's more to you too. But those unconscious biases love to creep in, don't they? And we're all guilty of it in one way or another. We create the stories in our mind about a person at first glance. Many times harmless, sometimes not so much. I met Michelle Hobgood years ago when she was my health coach. Oh yes, a good coach has a coach themselves, sometimes more than one. She's fit and feisty with an infectious laugh, and I was psyched to have her guide me on my wellness journey. But what I didn't know about Michelle was that she was also a mom of an adult son with autism. She was in a multicultural marriage, and as a Black woman, she faced unconscious biases every day, beyond anything I had ever witnessed myself or could even imagine. So when I first asked Michelle to join me on Holistically Speaking, I thought the focus would be about raising a child with special needs. But after chatting with Michelle, I realized this space was created for so much more to be shared. That's the beauty of conversation. It opens up doors if we really listen and are willing to learn. And that's where we have the power to turn awareness into action. Take a listen. Michelle, I know you from Daily Burn. You were one of my
Yeah.
first health coaches when Daily Burn used to have health coaches for the members.
Yeah.
And it was one of the reasons that it inspired me to become a health coach as well, because I saw that there's such a beautiful amount of support that we get in this field. Because sometimes, you're thrown into like this journey of weight loss, or you find out that you have some kind of a medical condition, and you need that extra support that you might not get from the doctor per se, but you might get it from someone who can guide you on that journey as a health coach, which you did. And you would check in with me every week. You'd be like, how you doing? And I was like, oh, good. And you'd be like, did you do this? Did you do that? So thank you for that. Thank you for being my
Oh,
coach.
okay.
And, over the last couple of years that we've gotten to know each other and built a friendship, and just being in the health and wellness field, I've learned more about you, and you really are so present and so empowering and inspiring in your own life, being a mom of a child who is, or an adult child rather, who's autistic, and, being a beautiful, strong Black woman, and then just being someone in the fitness field. I mean, there are a lot of areas that we could touch on that you've touched on that I've noticed on social media. But I know the one thing we really want to talk about today on Holistically Speaking is facing the unconscious biases that are happening in the world. And I know you have your own story. So
Yeah.
I want to give you time to share.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. I'm so honored to just even, that you even asked me, little old me. Just to have me here. I'm super excited. So thanks. But yeah, I wanted to talk about not even, I'm just gonna talk about one.
Yeah.
Because being a Black woman, this is something that you face all the time. So I want to start off by saying that this particular situation happened to me in the medical field. And it's just one of the areas that Black people can encounter unconscious bias. So last year I had surgery for a hernia repair, an umbilical hernia repair. And having a job as a fitness trainer, it can be quite demanding on the body after a while. You can do everything that you can to kind of keep yourself healthy, but after a while it's just like, okay, if you have certain ailments, they tend to present themselves a lot more, just they're a lot more quick. They present themselves a lot more than just the normal person. So I had this pain at my navel for a while, and I just didn't know where it was coming from. And I had done some tests, and just all of a sudden I just saw this little bump on my navel. And hernias are actually they're like rampant in my family. It's like a genetic thing. I had a hernia before when I was a little kid, and I had it repaired. So instantly when I saw this little bump, I just said, oh my God, it's a hernia. Oh no. So I went, just like with anyone else, I did my research online and looked around to find the best doctor for me, and found a doctor on ZocDoc that was here in New York City on the Upper West Side. Excellent reviews on ZocDoc, on Google, on Yelp, like just all over. He was just like a superstar. I went in, I met with him, and he was nice. He was pretty nice, and had my surgery scheduled. And within like about 2 weeks, I had planned to do the surgery. So I will just kind of fast forward to after the surgery. I noticed that within 3 weeks after the surgery, I got better, but then I got worse. Each time I would contact the doctor, he would be available to speak to me, not necessarily feeling like I was being taken seriously or that my pain was being taken seriously. And when I went in for my checkup or my follow up, I said, there's an indent on this side of my skin, and I'm not sure where it's coming from. This is where I exactly have the pain. And he just said, oh, that's nothing. Don't worry about it. So just going back to 3 weeks after, the pain that I'm having is only still yet in this area. 6 weeks after this doctor has said to me, you're going to be absolutely fine within 6 weeks to go back and, live your life. When I had my consultation with the doctor, I initially told him, I'm a personal trainer. I have a very active lifestyle. I have a child with special needs that I have to take care of, like physically take care of, eat, feed, clothe, bathe, like everything. And I need to be strong to do that. So I was definitely very adamant in explaining to him what my lifestyle was prior to this surgery. 7th week passes. I'm still not better. I'm now back at work, and I have so much pain just from talking during my sessions, not even doing the exercises or even trying to walk the client through, here's how you squat, here's how you lunge, but just standing and talking. My stomach was on fire. I think that last day that I was at work, I called his office and I said, something is not right. And I do not want to be pacified yet again, where you tell me, you're strong, you're fine, don't worry about it, just give it time. It's now 7 weeks and I'm not better. So I go into his office that evening after work, and this is where things start to get really, really weird. I go in, and the doctor's he's kind of like annoyed with me. I don't know why you just don't give this more time. He even went as far as saying, wow. He even went as far as saying, do you know how much the insurance companies pay doctors like me to do hernia repairs? They don't pay enough. I'm doing you a favor by providing you with post-op care, because at this point, this is pain management. There's nothing that I did wrong to cause your pain. Everything went well for your surgery.
Hmm.
And I said, you told me that I would be better by 6 weeks, that I would be at 80% by 6 weeks. It's 7 weeks and I can barely talk for 10 minutes straight. You told me that X, Y, and Z would happen. And I feel the need to hold you accountable for that. And every week that I've reached out to you, you've not tried to help me. You've just said, give it more time. You're strong. Now, sidebar, that is a very, very huge stigma when the medical community is dealing with Black people, Black women in general. There's this stigma that we can take pain more than other races for some reason. You're
Mm.
strong. Our pain is diminished, especially in the medical field. It's not believed, unfortunately. And this was so apparent to me when I was talking to this doctor.
What do you feel the reason is for that? That the pain is diminished because you're a Black woman? Can you elaborate on that?
I have no idea. I just have no idea. I don't want to like say the wrong thing, but
No, and this is your opinion, but I have to say,
yeah.
like, this is a woman, just as woman to woman. I mean, a lot of
Mhm.
times in the past, I know, not understanding what you're going through specifically, but there are times like, you go to the auto mechanic and they're like,
Mhm.
just let the guys know what they know how to do. And look, I mean, I'm not going to pretend I'm like Marissa Tomei and my cousin Vinny, and I know exactly everything about my car, but I do everything I can to understand the equipment that I use, including my body, which is my equipment as well, right? My
Right.
vehicle.
Right.
But to be shamed like that in any way, and for the reply to be, well, you're a strong Black woman, you know how to deal with this. uh, mm, I felt that, and I'm not even a Black woman,
Right.
you know?
Right. Right.
So where do you go with that, Michelle?
I'll just say that he treated me at the time and he gave me a lidocaine injection. But
Mm,
the entire time that he was treating me, he was chastising me.
mm.
He even went as far as I was going down the line of all the things that he said, trying to hold him accountable for the things that he said. He told me, "Don't semantic him. Don't semantic me. We're going to try to fix this, but it is what it is, basically." And I know for a fact that if had I not been a Black woman, he wouldn't have said those things to me. Had I not been a woman, maybe he wouldn't have said those things to me. And I'll be honest with you, like after my situation with him, I had looked him up on Google and I just read some other reviews, and there was one or two other reviews from other Black women not having had surgery, but just went in for a consultation. And the word, excuse me, the word dismissed was definitely used in their review of this doctor.
Is that a word that comes to mind with you regularly? And especially right now when we're dealing with so much with the Black Lives Matter, and not that this has not been something of concern prior. The
Mhm.
voices that we are hearing now, every the voices are deserved, in my
Right.
opinion. And to hear that, would that be a word that you would normally use? Dismissed.
Oh, absolutely.
Mm, yeah.
I mean, I could go down the list of times that I've felt dismissed,
Mm,
whether it was in my personal life, dealing with people, or just at work, um, in my career
mm,
as a fitness trainer. Definitely feeling undervalued, no matter what I was bringing to the table. Um, there was a time where, despite my 15 years plus of experience in fitness management, in corporate, in commercial fitness, someone referred a client to me. And when I sent him my rates, he flat out told me, "I didn't think you would be this expensive." And the person that referred me to him was charging him essentially the same price, and did not have a master's degree, did not have the years of experience as me, but they were a man. So he didn't think that I had the right to charge as much as what he was already paying his last trainer, who
well, we
was a white man.
we still deal with that in life, is that being paid less than men.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that there's agreement across the board that all men feel that they should get paid more by any means. I mean, we are
Mhm.
seeing a change, but we shouldn't have to fight for those rights.
Mm-mm.
And as you, as a fitness professional, as a coach, as a fitness trainer, as a Black woman, do you feel that you're challenged even more being a Black woman in that field?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Mm,
Um, it's definitely, I mean, for example, there's been several companies I've worked for where I was the only Black employee, not Black woman, just the only Black person.
Mm.
And I've been working since I was 14. I'm 45. So I have
Mm.
lots and I worked in the fashion industry before I switched over to fitness. So it's just something that you're used to. Okay, you look around, you don't see anyone like you. That's just life. You're happy, you're excited for the opportunity to be employed and to have a job, and you bring and you put your best foot forward and you do your job. But it's unfortunately something that you kind of get used to. Okay, well,
Mm.
I could be working for this company and I could go to their website and not see a single person that looks like me, and I'm essentially the first person. Okay. I'm essentially the only person. Okay. And it's unfortunate, but it's the norm for many Black people to be the only one.
The phrase that you are used to it is bothersome to me.
Yeah.
And these are the conversations we need to be having.
Yeah.
We really need to be facing more of these conversations of the unconscious bias, because to me, and there are so many people out there that I'm sure feel this way, that it's about your experience. It's about what you bring to the table, and we're all different. And about the bio individuality and what we bring in our experience and expertise and ourselves is part of that. To be getting used to something already sounds like an unbelievable bias.
Yeah.
So how do we change that dialogue and that conversation? How do you see it changing?
Well, I see it changing where companies or are more open to diversity.
Mm.
You know, not necessarily just completely saying, "Oh, we're only going to hire a bunch of Black people." Like, no, we're not asking for that. We're just asking for the same chance as everybody else. Unfortunately, sometimes I've had friends that one of my friends actually did a test
Mhm.
where she changed her name on her resume. Same exact resume, and she changed her first name and got like so many callbacks based on what was written on her resume. But because of her name, because it's an African name,
Mm. Mhm.
it was just like kicking down a brick wall. And as soon as she changed her name and switched it out to something that was more European or American sounding, that wasn't so
Mhm.
ethnic, she was getting callbacks left and right.
Hmm.
I've had times where I may have applied for jobs with my name and, um, you know, get through all of the phone calls and all that. This is just back in the days, not
Mhm.
nowadays, because
Mhm.
everyone can Google you. And I'd show up for the interview,
Mhm.
and they're like, "Oh, you're Michelle? Oh, okay." Yeah, someone actually did that. Like I
Were
applied.
you expecting a man?
Yeah, I was just like,
Right.
it's like this studio. I had applied for a job and I had a phone interview and everything. And then when I showed up, the woman was just kind of like, "Oh, you're Michelle. Oh, wow. Okay." The same exact woman that I spoke to when I did the phone interview. And then all of a sudden they didn't have any more positions available.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Just like not in our head. These things really happen, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. And you're also a woman that is not, you're married to a white male. You're married
Yeah.
to a white man. You have a son who's special needs, an adult male son who's
Mhm.
also
Mhm.
a black young man.
Right.
So there's a lot of there's a lot of branches to this tree with
Absolutely.
so how does what's a day in the life of Michelle with a woman married to a black woman married to a white man with an
Mhm.
adult? How old is Devon? 20,
You're
20,
26.
26.
Yeah.
There's this trifecta happening here, and you're dealing with a lot of other elements to this story, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And you know what it is too? Like a lot of times people think that because you are Black and you're married to someone that's white, that you might essentially be okay with like you might be afraid to talk about racism, that you don't
mm,
experience racism. And like some people are uncomfortable being in an interracial marriage I like to call it multicultural,
Mm-hmm.
a multicultural marriage, and speaking up for their race, because the first thing someone will say is, "Well, you married a white boy," or, "Well, what do you know? You married someone white." And my first answer to that is, who cares? I married the person that I fell in love with,
Mm.
the person that was right for me, and the person that understands me, you know? So for me, I always say, just because I'm married to a white man doesn't mean that I don't experience racism. It doesn't mean that I'm not still Black.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm Black every day. I go out in the world, I'm a Black woman. And on top of that, I'm very connected to my culture. I consider myself, even though I was born here in America, I my family is from the Caribbean island, Trinidad and Tobago. Trinidad, basically. And I grew up in a Caribbean, like a West Indian Caribbean culture. So even though I was born here in America and I'm American, my household I was raised very differently, you know? So meeting my husband, it was weird because he grew up in the South, and I think, I don't want to say I have a unique experience, but
Yeah.
my husband, when I met him, we were introduced by one of my friends who is Black.
Mm-hmm.
My husband has, a lot of Black friends.
Mm-hmm.
His best friend is Black. He has a lot of Black friends. And he's one of those people that's very comfortable around like all races.
Mm-hmm.
So when I met him, it was more about the connection to the person. We like the same music. We like the same movies. He really made me laugh. He got to know the real Michelle, and he wasn't intimidated by my crazy strong personality. In fact, he was attracted to that. We've been married for 12 years, and things are still kind of we're still finding our way, but it's definitely, I know that I can feel comfortable talking to him about anything that I'm facing. If I can come home and say, "Look, this thing happened to me today and it was racist." And I know that he can hear me. Now, he's not the kind of person that's ever going to say that he knows what it means to be Black, because he doesn't, but he definitely can. I can feel that I have a partner, and I can talk about what my struggles are without having to hide who I am, so that's important to me. That's who I fell in love with. Now, as far as our family life, he's an awesome dad, great stepdad to my son. We definitely have a very interesting family life. With my son just loves him to death. My son's very, he's nonverbal, and we pretty much do everything for him, but he just really loves my husband. And, our family life is it's very crazy. I try to share the happy, funny, go lucky times, on social media. I
You,
don't, it's enough that he's autistic, and,
yeah.
I'm not going to just go into like, "Oh, it's so sad, autism. Oh," like I don't live in that space.
You don't. And look, I mean, what's so great about you? And I just listening right there, like you have this amazing laugh that just like, it's contagious, Michelle. And you giggle and you laugh, even in the most difficult times when you're talking about Devon and you're dealing with Devon, you're working with Devon, get him on the treadmill. He's listening to music for the first time. Your hubby's involved as well. I mean, and that's the other thing I want to touch on as well, is that you've been married to your husband for 12 years, and he
Mhm.
walked into a relationship not only with somebody who has a child, but someone who has a child who has special needs, because I guess at the time when you
Yeah.
were married, Devon was 14.
Mhm.
But to walk into something and there's already a family that exists is a challenge in itself. And as we get older and we're out there in the world, it's more of a possibility, if you're single and you marry somebody, that there could be a life prior. But to walk into that with full on, I'm in this because I love you, and 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 embrace what comes with, says a lot about him.
Yeah.
Says a lot about
Yeah.
the three of you, actually. But going back to you, the everything you share, is there really is a sense of laughter. But you've also shared, like, oh girl, and whoever's watching my Instagram, it ain't always a heyday.
No, no, ma'am.
I mean, you're laughing, but you can feel like the struggle. you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I mean, sometimes I definitely have a couple of posts where, I posted one time and I was just like, don't, being an autism parent sometimes feels like the loneliest place in the world. And that post just got so many responses. I don't have like a huge amount of followers, but I do have a lot of engagement, which is important to me. When I post, people respond, people talk, and people feel what I'm saying. There are times where it's very stressful. It can be depressing, a depressing place. And trust me, I have my days where I'm just kind of like, what the F? Like I am gonna just jump out this window right now. I'm just
mhm.
gonna, this is insane, just having, especially with the quarantine.
Yeah.
My son usually goes to a day program, and I have not sent him back to this day program. I mean, the day program was closed for many, many months, and it has since reopened. But my son touches everything. He wipes his eye, he rubs his nose, and he touches his face and then touches the t-shirt and the wall, and then he rubs his eye. That's like a tick that he has, like
Mhm,
a
mhm.
just like a habit of his. And I can't trust that he's going to be fully cared for in a day hab environment where they're going to constantly keep washing his hands, or he's going to be around other people with special needs at his day program who might not necessarily understand about 6 feet of space and boundaries and covering our nose when we sneeze and things of that nature. So I had to be realistic, unfortunately. I mean, his life has changed a lot. He was really, really, social. He went to a Saturday recreation program. He went to a camp for adults with special needs in the summer. We would travel. We'd take 2 trips a year, my husband and I. We had a lot of support. And then it went from that to I'm in the damn house every day with my
Mhm.
kid. Just like, okay, it literally feels like Groundhog Day. Like it really does.
Yeah.
You wake up and you're
Mhm,
doing the same exact thing every day. And,
mhm.
my son won't wear a mask because of sensory issues. Like he won't wear anything on his head or his face, because he just doesn't like that feeling on his head or anything covering his face or his ears. He won't even wear a hood in the wintertime or a hat when it's 20 degrees outside. So having to teach him to wear a face mask has been totally useless. He'll do the face shield for 5 seconds, and I posted about that as well. And there are lots and lots of other parents going through the same thing. So knowing that my son can go to a day program where he's around his peers and have some type of social life, he can't go out with me anywhere outside of just walking around the perimeter of our block because he can't go into a store without a mask on.
Mhm.
He can't go out to eat without him. We can't take him anywhere. We can't do anything. We've gone to the park, and that's been the extent of our whole summer. And we went on like one little trip, like
Mhm,
a social distancing trip, upstate New York.
mhm.
But knowing that it does get really stressful and it does wear on you. When I speak about that on my social media, I am very honest with folks and say, yes, I'm upbeat. Yes, I try to look on the bright side of autism because my son is my son. This is who he was meant to be, and I accept him 100%. But this is a shit show.
Yeah,
Like this is the shit show that I'm living in, but I'm trying to navigate it as best as I
yeah.
can, and I just do get up and do the best that I can every day. But if you are stressed out as a parent, you're totally allowed to be because I am too. Like I try to have that community around that and be realistic. Like my whole social media presence is about transparency and honesty. I feel like I'm the anti fitness professional because I on my social media it's like fitness, but your kind of fitness. Whatever fitness you can do, honey, just do it.
Yeah,
Just move, just do something.
yeah.
Wellness, okay, we're going to talk about trying to keep ourselves healthy given the times that we're living in, given the life that you have, make it the best. Autism, yes, it's happening. This is what it is, good and bad. I just try to show the reality because I feel like there's enough lies on social media.
Well, there's a lot of
as it is.
the imposter syndrome that exists, right? Don't you think there's a lot of
Yeah.
the imposter syndrome? And especially in our line of work, um, there's that feeling of, and I've talked to other guests on the show where it's like if we are dealing with something, whether it be our emotional health or our physical health, and we're not living our top game, then we're an imposter because we're supposed to be the healthiest and the fittest and the
Yeah.
emotionalist. That's not even a word, but
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? It's like we're supposed to be top of our game if people are going to be coming to us. But the thing that's so real is when we are real, we have our struggles, we have what we're going through. I'm not going to
Exactly.
filter all my pictures and my videos and everything because part of it is, don't you want to know the real me? You know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and thankfully, social media, while it has been the influencers on the other side, it's also been the influencers. And that term I'm not really a big fan of anyway. It's
Mm-hmm.
also just meaning that we're influencing and I rather call it the inspirers, right? That
Yeah.
we're creating the space for people to say, "You're not alone. You're not
Right.
alone in this.
Yeah.
There are other moms out there and dads that are dealing with homeschooling and working from home, and they don't even have a child with special needs. And
Mm-hmm.
then there are even people like myself who are on my own, and I'm still dealing with stuff. We have to balance the emotional and the physical, and it's already difficult to be in our homes doing the Groundhog Day, which I totally get that, but add the element of I've got an
Mm-hmm.
adult child with special needs. I have to go out there in the world and people look at me or me and my husband or the three of us,
Mm-hmm.
and I've got
Mm-hmm.
to balance my own life. I mean, that I would imagine that is a lot of weight on your shoulders.
Yeah, it is. I mean, especially the fitness part,
Yeah.
because a lot of times I used to feel that way when I was younger. And now that I'm in my 40s, I feel completely different. When I was younger, I was just like, I gotta have the six pack, I gotta be really muscular, I gotta so and so. Now that I'm in my 40s, I tend to just be very honest because you already have the other people that can give you the six pack,
Mm,
like that they're already there. And I know that how I look is not a representation of how I'm going to help you with your fitness goals. Okay. That's the number one thing. I'm definitely past all of that. And I feel that people really definitely can relate to you when you're being honest. I personally am not going to want to deal with a personal trainer to help me lose weight who's never struggled with their own weight loss. You're it's never going to click, boo boo. It's never going to click. You're not it's just like, how do you know what it means to look in the mirror and not be happy with what you see based
yeah.
on your weight gain from whatever, hormones, or just whatever your
Yeah.
situation is, stressful eating, whatever, if you've always been slim and fit naturally,
Mm,
which there are a lot of trainers out there like that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the people that I'm marketing to are everyday women who are just trying to make their whole life work together,
mm,
whether they're in their 20s, 30s, or 40s. you know it's perfection doesn't exist.
mm,
My thing is functional, not flawless. That's it. That's what we want. So I'm very honest about that on social media as well. Like, I've gained 15 pounds during COVID because I'm not moving around as much. I am working out, but I have reproductive things. Like, I have fibroids, I have plantar fasciitis, I'm nursing a shoulder injury right
mm,
now that I got just while sleeping. Okay. And I feel that for me, when I'm honest about what my life is about, despite me being a fitness professional, that's where people connect to me.
mm,
Because honestly, it's a weight loss journey or weight gain journey, whatever your goal is, it's your health journey. And the journey is not a straight line, honey. It's
mhm,
not. It's going to go up. You're going to be up for a couple of years. I feel great. I feel wonderful. Then something's going to happen that's going to knock you off your pedestal. You're going to fall back down again, and you're going to have to go back up again and go back down again. That's what it's about. That's what life is.
yeah.
And I feel that when we show our clients that, we let them see that we also are going through that same thing, that's when people connect and want to work with you. That's when they're like, oh, you know what? that's the same thing that happened to me. Oh, okay, this person gets it, so
It's realism.
yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah,
realism. I mean, that's
yeah.
life. Life is ups and downs. It's a roller coaster, and I totally get that because I feel that when I decided to get into the health coaching and also as a mental health practitioner, I know my journey in the mental health and havening techniques was because I went through some really heavy trauma. And what can I do to serve others? Because where was that when I needed it? It's almost like our own journeys put us on. Our pain is the basis of our true power. That's one
Yeah,
of my
yeah.
my favorite
Oh,
quotes
yeah,
because
absolutely.
being a mom, you're identifying with the mom. Being a mom of a special needs adult child is another one. Being a woman married, a black woman married to a white man is another one. And then everything you couple together. I mean,
Mhm.
all of those things are really together in a lot of ways,
Yeah,
right? But
yeah.
someone might identify with one of them.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and like I from the outside looking in, I'm just like, "Oh, this is just my life." And then, you know, people will message me and they'll be like, "Wow, your life is really fascinating." And I'm like, "Really? I don't
I
okay."
haven't left my
I'm just
apartment.
right. I'm just like, okay, just getting up every day and this is what it is. And sometimes I realize, yeah, it is kind of unique. Yeah, it is definitely there's a lot of stuff going on
Mhm.
there. It's a lot sometimes. I just try to like balance it all, but I try to like touch on every little thing
Mhm.
that can possibly connect me to the people that are kind of like living like even an aspect of my life, like a percentage of my life. I just try to connect with them on that. Like recently I started doing like professional organizing on my page because that's something that I love also
Oh,
doing.
yes, the
And
closet.
I yeah, and people have been like, "Oh, I didn't know you did that. Oh, that's so cool." And I was so shocked like, "Wow, it's basically going back to the imposter syndrome. Like
Yeah.
you don't think, oh, no one cares about this. Why would I share this? But it's so surprising to
Mhm.
see like so many people will respond. And I'm like, wow, you guys actually are interested in this. Okay, I'll talk about it some more then,
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, totally. I loved what you did to the closet. I was all into that because I'm so OCD and I love organization. So I was like, oh yeah, show that after picture. Go, come on, show me
Yeah.
what you got. And I get it because like I think and this was my next question for you because being that you've been uh in your home, we're seeing people doing more in their homes, right?
Hmm.
More
Hmm.
baking. Everybody's making the sourdough or organizing. I haven't done the sourdough yet, but I did bake and I put something on my Instagram about baking because it's like I'm learning to bake more in a healthy, holistic way. And here
Hmm.
you are, do you think that it's part of your therapy too? Is the organizational side of things?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I have to tell you that I have already like I've always been organized. I'm
Mhm.
super anal about stuff like that. Just whether it's filing or like my closet or just in my home.
Mhm.
I feel that when my home life is in
Mhm.
disarray, I cannot function well.
Mhm.
So I have to set systems in place to help me function well. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Mhm.
Once I set up that system and that functionality, I can put things away quickly. I can hang things up quickly. It makes everything a lot easier. When there's like crap all over the place,
Mhm.
there's a level of stress that just comes down on me. And especially being an autism parent, we have enough things going on as it is, enough crazy, enough, all these, things that happen with our kids that if we can just have one thing that's set up right,
Mhm.
it makes it easier. And for me, that's organization. I just think about when my son was going to day program and I would have to get him ready every morning. I totally redid his room and his closet so that it went all by how much time does it take for me to get him dressed and out the door so I can get off to work?
Mhm.
What steps do I need to take in organizing his room so that I can do all of this in 15 minutes flat and be out the door in 30 minutes straight or in under an hour? When I set up that system and I reorganized everything, I got my son ready within 20 minutes and we were gone. Prior to that system, it was like an hour. Where's this? Where's that? I got to find this. And I'd come home and his room would be a monsoon and it would just be stuff all over the bed but once I organized the space, I was able to get through things a lot quicker. And I was also able to come home to a cleaner space, which then made me feel less stressed.
Yeah.
So I just feel like organization is just the number one thing in helping us de-stress.
Definitely. And organization in the brain too.
Yeah,
When we are all over the
absolutely.
place, it's like there is some crazy system going on in there if we are
Hmm.
not clear on things. And I'm like that too. I really like organization. And when I see things in disarray, I'm like, I don't even know where to start. Because that's the thing. You don't know where to start. And the first thing you need to do is just start. It's the same thing with working out. I don't know how
Yep,
to lose this weight. You just need to start. And once you get on that treadmill, you start walking, right? Baby steps.
exactly.
So
Right.
there are a lot of commonalities here. You're as a fitness professional, as a mom, as a wife, you're dealing with a lot of different elements. As being a Black woman, would you say that the unconscious bias and the fitness and being a mom of an autistic child all is interrelated?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because you deal with that unconscious bias in all those areas. I mean, I can like even with my son,
Mm,
when he was a little kid, we had when he was in the Department of Education
mm,
for New York City, and he had to go and do his IEP meetings. A lot of times, I would show up. I was a single parent at the
yeah.
time, and I'd show up, and we would discuss this IEP with an occupational therapist and his teachers, and some of these people would be blacks, but most of the time, a lot of them were not black; they were white.
Mm,
And when I would demand certain things be changed, I would be met with, "Oh, well, why?"
mm,
Or, just kind of like, "Well, why can't you just take it the way that it is?
mm,
Why do you want to change this? And we don't think you should change this." And I know that that's not always the case. It wouldn't have been the case had I been a white woman,
mm,
you know? Um, that's just one of the aspects. A lot of times when my husband and I would go out, and you would think that in 2020, I mean, people would be used to seeing interracial marriages, especially in New York City and Brooklyn. I mean, it's the Mecca. But there are still those times where my husband and I would go someplace together. We'd go to a restaurant and they would be like, table for two? Like, yeah, there's two of us standing here. Or I remember one of the things that kind of stays in my mind
yeah.
is definitely Trader Joe's. We
Mm.
we went to Trader Joe's and we were shopping. We got on the line. We get to the cash register. We get to the cashier together. I slid the card in. It was the double cart at Trader Joe's, not the full cart, but the double cart. Slid the card in, and then the guy looks at me. He looks at my husband, and then he says, "Is this together?" And I said, "Sir, it's one cart. Do you see two carts here? There's two sections, but it's only one cart. And did we tell you that this payment is separate?" And he said, "No." I said, "Well, why would you automatically assume that we're not paying together because I'm black and he's white?" And then he just kind of looked at me and just kind of ignored me and just kind of just kept going. I don't want to say that this young man was racist, but it was definitely a bias. Like, what?
Mhm. So what's the
If we were both
difference?
white or both black, he wouldn't have asked that.
What
You know what I mean? So,
what is the difference between that? How would you define the difference between bias and racist?
okay, so let's just for example, if we're at Trader
Mhm,
Joe's, I think that that was more of like a
mhm,
bias. If he would have said, "Well, wow, what are you two doing together?" That would have been racist.
mhm,
Um, that actually happened to us one time,
mhm.
walking down the street. And this was a black person that said this, and they were just like, "Wow, how'd you two get together?" I thought that that was
Yeah.
racist, even though it was a black person. Like, that's not something that you should say, period.
Mhm,
You know what I mean? So it's definitely tricky. There haven't been times where people would like outwardly come out and just be, like, "What are you doing together?" They haven't come out and said it from their mouth. Perfect example, with their eyes or with their
mhm,
stares or with their, glares. When my husband, my son, and myself, when we all three of us go out together, ooh, honey, it is definitely a stare down. It's definitely
mm.
the glance-a-thon.
Glance of the
It is the
Yeah.
glance-a-thon. It is just kind of like a glance, you're walking in. And it's my husband, my son and I, we don't really go to like public spaces together because my son gets like, he gets a little bit weird sometimes
Yeah.
depending on where we are, and he might have like an outburst. Generally he's really well behaved, and but the lighting, the space, the
Yeah.
noise in the place, he could get like a little loud. And we took him to Target, and the three of us went in together. We were all shopping. My son was kind of like holding the cart, helping my husband push the cart, and we got a lot of stares. People were just kind of like looking. Now, devil's advocate, just in general, when you have a child with autism, people will stare. And sadly, it's not even the kids, it's
Mm.
adults. It's the adults that are like looking and staring. Luckily, no one has commented to me but their mouth. Because God help them if anyone had ever said anything to me. But I've heard stories where if an autism child is with their parent and their child is having an outburst at Target or Macy's or wherever, people have said, get your child under control. Your child needs a spanking, or just your child's bad. And not knowing that my child just has autism and this is how they're coping with what's going on right now. They're in a different space and this is how they're reacting to it.
Mm.
That's never happened to me, but like I said, we get the glance-a-thon,
Mm.
so they will stop, they'll stare, they'll look. So this past summer, my husband and we took our son to this park, and it was right around when it started to get warm, but the pandemic was just kind of coming down in New York City, was kind of dropping.
Mhm.
It was around May, or like the end of April, the beginning of May. And we took him to this park here in Brooklyn because we had to like get out of the house. At that time, masks weren't mandated as yet, but people had started wearing them. And my husband and I had masks on, but my son didn't. You would have thought that we were just like the worst parents. Like everyone was staring at us. So they were like looking at my son, looking at my husband, looking at me, trying to figure out what's the dynamic here? What's this white guy doing with this black lady and her disabled kid? Like, what's happening? But also kind of like looking at us like, why doesn't your son have a mask on? You two have masks on. Why isn't he wearing one? Almost like those kind of judgmental
Mm.
stares,
Mhm.
and again, these people did not say anything to us. My son's 26, Hillary,
Yeah.
okay? When people are staring at
Mm.
you. You know when they're saying things with their eyes
Mhm.
that they're too afraid to say with their mouth.
Yeah.
So you feel that. You feel that. And then you're trying to get through life and just have a normal life, take your kid outside to get some fresh air, and you have to deal with the judgment of my kid not wearing a
Mhm.
mask, but then also the stares from ignorant people who are shocked that two people of the opposite race could be together
Mhm.
and then have a disabled kid.
Yeah.
It's like, are you kidding me? It's 2020.
There's a
This
lot of
is
there's
not
a lot of "Are you kidding me? It's 2020"
right.
moments, aren't there?
This is not the
Yeah.
the 60s and the 70s where people literally, if you had a disabled child back
Mhm.
then
Mhm.
in New York City, that is, people would send you would just send your kid away.
Yeah.
Send him away. Go send him to Willowbrook, which was some crazy place in Staten Island. I'm not even going to get into it, but that's literally what life
Yeah.
was back then.
Yeah.
Like just go
Institutionalized.
hide them. Yeah, like
Yeah.
hide them.
Yeah.
And they didn't believe that people like my son could have a normal life at home, out in the community, and be happy. So it's daunting to still be in 2020 and for people to look at you like, what are you doing with that disabled person? What are you doing with that white man?
Right.
Like, what? Like, are you kidding
It's
me?
a it's an
No.
it's another getting used to moment, it seems like.
Yeah.
I
It's like almost shocking at the same time, but also you're just living your life every day and you're just kind of like, okay, this is my life. I'm used to it.
Mm.
And then when it happens, it's just still like, we're still doing this? Oh my
Mhm.
God. Like, for real?
Yeah. So
People are still staring? Okay.
so on that note, I mean, Michelle, there's a lot of dynamics to this life that you live. Is that I guess we all deal with different dynamics, but with what your life is and what you're trying to share and get out there, I mean, what is the message if you were to leave a message with listeners, what would it be?
My message is live your life authentically.
Mm,
Just be authentically you, you know, never be afraid to show who you are. That's my message.
mm,
Despite all of the quote unquote crazy and chaos that the world may think is going on in my life because I have a child with special needs, because, you know, I have all of these other things going on, those are the things that make me unique. And your story and whatever it is that's going on in your life, those are the things that makes you unique as
mhm.
well. And when we share all of those unique things, that's what brings us together and makes us just regular humans,
Yeah. No matter
you
what we're
know?
going through. And you live
Yeah.
authentically. And it's beautiful to see that. And your message is pretty clear. Don't change who you are. That's my message to you.
Oh, thank you.
All right. So let's have a little fun. This is what I always love to do with my guests. I love to do a rapid fire. Okay. So
Okay.
basically, while we're chit chatting, what I do is I find words from what you're saying and I write them down. And then you have to throw back a word at me when I throw a word at you. So it's kind of like word association. Uh, are you
Okay.
ready?
I'm ready. Shoot.
Okay. That's where I put my little evil mustache, right? Okay, here we go. Racism,
Alive.
autism.
I have to come up with one word.
Girl, you can make me start this game over.
Okay,
All right, I'm going to do
sorry.
it again.
Okay,
I'm giving
sorry.
you
That's
no.
like the
I
perfectionist in
know.
me.
That's the
Leo in me.
OCD wanting to redo the whole game. Okay, I hear how you are. There's no alpha
Okay, I got
shelves
you.
for this, okay? All right. Okay, here we go. And I'm leaving that in the podcast, by the way. All right. Racism,
Alive.
autism,
Love.
fitness,
Functional.
organization,
Life.
mom.
Ooh. Unity.
I'm just going to end it there. I have a couple more, but I like that. I like that. Unity. What better way to end than on that? You know?
Yeah.
So thank you so much for sharing your time and just being the authentic person you are. It's been such a lovely journey watching you and just everything that you share. And thank you for being my health coach back in the day.
Ah, thank you for having
Thank you
me.
for supporting
I'm
me.
so excited. Absolutely. Of
Yeah.
course. Of
Well, I
course.
appreciate it. And I have a feeling, holistically speaking, listeners will as well. So thanks for being here. If you want to learn more about Michelle and her journey, I highly suggest you follow her on Instagram and visit her website. You'll find those links to both on my podcast page. Got an inspiring story to share? Connect with me on my website, hillaryrusso.com, or on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook @HillaryRusso. I'd love to hear from you. And if you're ready to turn your traumas into triumphs and live resiliently, set up a free discovery call with me by clicking the link on the podcast page. You have the power to put the healing in your own hands, and I can't wait to help you get there. Holistically Speaking is produced by Alan Seals with music by Litbone Redding. Connection is everything, my friend, and it's why I'm here, because of you. So thanks for listening. And until next time, remember this: be kind to your mind and don't forget to laugh.